What is that supposed to be?
Oh, we're going live!
Hello, welcome to the Honest Wargamer. I'm your host, Rob. Welcome to Welcome to AoS Mondays. I am live with the quadrangle of power. I am with a collection of gentlemen which, if we were to form some sort of zombie fighting squad, we would make it to day 2, maybe even day 3. I'm not sure. We would be able to hold up windows, block objectives, and serve them alcohol the entire time.
I reckon Nathan'd do pretty well.
He would. Yeah.
I feel like he'd be the most cutthroat. We'd all end up with a bullet in the kneecap, and he would end up just
I think
running
Nathan's
off into the distance.
He's softer than you think. I think what would happen is we'd all be like, right, what we're going to do? Nathan would be there holding the team together, and then you'd lose the plot, stab us all in the back, and do one.
I think Nathan would make it. I agree. I'm not sure I'd make it. Apart from my ability to scavenge off the land and eat any jam I find anywhere in the anywhere in the world. Right. So hello everyone. Welcome to the show. As you can see, I'm joined by James, Dan, and Nathan. I'm going to see how they are in a minute. One of the things that we're going to do today is we're going to talk about the 2020 list archetypes. So lists that you more than likely will see in Age of Sigmar. It's meant to be for new people. So if you are new to Age of Sigmar, this is the purpose of the show. So we're not going to spend very long on the news today, nor very long on just talking to the dudes, which we normally do in a very long preamble, which sometimes is most of the show as opposed to the actual segment of the show.
What? I thought we were just a chat show.
Isn't that how we do things?
A broadcast.
Is there a show?
We're live. Nathan, we're live. So
We're all live, and we're all definitely wearing pants.
I am, because
Yep.
it's very cold here, because not all the windows are working. So, I'm going to just say hello to everyone in the chat. The Big Goldfish, Hawkeye, Owen, BMX, thank you. If you haven't listened to us before, this is Nathan playing with his microphone. You'll hear it on most shows.
It's working?
Yeah, which means you can also listen to it on a podcast, which is like this, but only the audio to deal with. It's arguably better. And thank you. And we're supported by everyone on the Honest Wargamer Patreon, who, because everything we do is free, supports us so that we can be an unbiased media source. Unless we're talking about our own products, in which case they're all brilliant, like our objective markers made by James, or the Super Series run by me. Or Dan, I guess cocktails made by you?
Yeah, alcohol. Just real good at putting alcohol in myself first and other people second. In fact, that's why I have 2 coffee cups right now. 1, no alcohol. 1, JMO. Jameson, if you'd like to sponsor us, I'm happy to be biased on your behalf.
Nathan, I think, is sponsored by Plaster of Paris. Is that what you use for walls, Nathan?
Fuck off.
I love the idea. What's that? Yeah, that thing you used as a kid. That's just Nathan building a wall. Bit of newspaper, bit of paste.
Thank you to Rob R. Winters for subscribing for 3 months in the chat. I'm particularly excited for the fact that you and James are having a call. James was telling me before the show how excited he was about giving you a call, so that's going to be fun. Right, okay, let's get on with the show. Nathan, how you been?
I've been great, thank you very much. What have I been doing in the hobby? I have been still painting some kits, working on my sneaky snufflers, and I've acquired another gargant.
Oh, so how many gargants does that take you up to officially?
So that'll be 3 now. So yeah, it'll be good.
Which is the battle line, am I correct?
That's right. Or else it's 3 gargants in my gets list, which is also a thing. So yeah. What else? Oh,
there's
I
a
managed
question
to
in the
get
chat.
a couple of games.
There's a question in the chat to what percentage of the sneaky snuffler has been completed.
Oh, I'm all I've got left is the spider backpacks and the mushrooms. So I'm calling that 96.2% done.
Nice. Okay.
That's the construction expert you want, just like on the very specifics there.
Yes.
Nathan today asked me how big a toilet seat was, and I said it was the size of a forearm and a hand. And he managed to, just from that, get exactly the right size toilet seat, which is
No.
yeah.
There was only
absolute
one
skills.
size available. I wanted to make sure it was the right one. I was just like, oh, fuck. I'll just take it. If it doesn't fit, I'll take it back.
It did. So now,
Yeah.
lo and behold, I'm someone who owns also a toilet seat on his toilet. Fancy.
Important.
Fancy as you can get. Right, Nathan, your games, how have they gone?
So I've had a couple of games against you over the last week or so.
We played twice.
Yeah. Against your Chaos Ascendant list with that big rat, and a big bird. A lot of change, and a Vermin Lord Whoops, and some pink horrors, basically. Oh, and some of the shooty boys.
Oh yeah,
Flamers.
The Flamers. Yeah.
Now, that was a super close game. How did that end? A draw?
I think you won that.
A win?
No, I think you won that.
A win? Slight win. Cool. And I was playing with
that
my
big
kids.
rat failed as per.
Oh, yeah. Because blame the rat, but yeah. It was a Call the Moon in the last gasp, Call the Moon, that struck him down. So that was good. So I had a mixed skits list there. I think I was trying out the Jaws of Mork as well, actually. So I had loads of squigs. So yeah, that was fun. Squigs and wizards.
It was a fun game. But my Vermin Lord Warps here, Vermin Lord Warps here went in to go kill a mangler, did no damage, and then that cost me and him the game, which was a nice kind of like nod to what was going to happen in the next game when I played with my pure Skaven. And a Vermin Lord Warpnor did exactly the same. He charged into a Mangler Squig. He's got a 5 damage glaive. Didn't kill the Mangler Squig. And then Nathan won the priority, gave me the turn, which means I get to activate again with my Vermin Lord Warpnor. And he still doesn't kill the Mangler Squig, and the Mangler Squig kills him. So, 2 activation. Yeah, the Mangler Squig is the champ. We had some fun games. But I did tell myself that I need to write better lists. Big shout out to Sorry Again, who's in the chat, who has provided me with enough 3D printed materials to make over 6 rattling guns. So I'm very excited about that. Very excited. It's not 13, but it's close enough right now.
It's getting there. It's baby steps. You got to crawl before you can walk.
Yeah. I'm going to try anyway. James, Nathan, Dan, James, how have you been? You've been away. Where have you been? Tell us.
I've been skiving. So I went on a family vacation. So I went away with my mother and father. And I've been in St Ives, which is at the very bottom of the country in Cornwall, for 2 weeks. It was really nice. I was going to be really organised. Took some hobby with me. Took a box of paints. Got there. Started painting. Realised I'd forgot the 4 that I was using. They're on the side in the house. Stopped painting. Did no hobby.
You've done no hobby?
Not really. I did. What have I done? That's it. I built some elves. I built a Teclis, 6 archers, and the Veil Lady from Luminous. That's it. That's all I've done. Then I had a swim in the sea.
Nice. Did you not do, as we've seen the lovely Benjamin Savage Studio Worst would do a photo shoot of your models by the sea, which is the pro move?
No.
Please tell me it's like a pregnancy style photo shoot as well. Just like all the models like standing there looking at the camera, but like holding their bellies, just with the clouds and the sea behind them.
It's like a really beautiful Death army, of which 90% of those models you'll never see, and it's just with the sea backdrop. And I was like, "That's clever. That's clever." All right, well, it's nice to have you back, James. That's all I can say.
Hi.
Dan, how have you been? You been well? What's been going on?
Good. I've done very, very little hobby. The biggest thing that I've been mucking around with that I keep coming back to, you know, when you have that one project on your hobby table that just like you look at and you're trying to make decisions based on and you can't. That's me at the moment. I'm paralyzed with indecision, and it's on my robotic Gargant conversion that'll be for my Cities of Sigmar, for my my lovely Greywater Fastness army. And I'm trying to decide 2 legs or 4 legs. I don't know whether it's like a clanking kind of mechanical weird thing, or whether that's going to go the way that the clanking mechanical weird thing went in the great classic Wild Wild West featuring Will Smith. So I'm maybe tempted just to go 2, but then I'm like, is it imposing enough? I don't know. And if it's kicking objectives, more legs means more objectives kicked.
Yeah. So Order are supposed to be taking the Kraken Eater variant, aren't they? Because it looks like each one has got a named mercenary for each faction. Is that right? For each Grand Alliance.
Mm.
So, Kraken Eater for Order, the War Monster or whatever it is for Chaos, and the Gatebreaker, the Death Guys. Is that right?
Mm-hmm.
The Taint Puncher as well.
the ghoulie smasher.
The groin grabber.
The fucking nipple twister.
I got some wonderful names. Some truly beautiful names.
Can I just say thank you to everyone who's subscribed so far? So there's a whole bunch of them. Ebert, Speckles, big love to you. Romar Winters, big shout out to all of you for subscribing. And then thank you to Scrivo for donating some. Zeitguy, thanks for subbing. Scrivo for donating some gift subscriptions, which is super cute. And then Romar Winters for donating some. So there's a whole bunch of people. Ovoy, Zip Zap Zap, and Kodawichi, and Swaggy Shadow. You've all got subscriptions now, so you can use all your emotes. If we could all get some Grotgang emotes in the chat, get them used, that would be sweet as you can go. So, the Gargants are obviously soon, because we're getting all of the narrative coming out, we're soon to see the rules. It looks like some of the rules that we've seen so far are very underwhelming. Is there anyone holding out hope that they're going to be a, above Sylvaneth level army, or what do we all think so far?
I would like to say that if you were looking at Gargants as an army and you were getting like real deep dive going, this is going to be my strategic domination and I'm going to be the top of the tournament with it, you maybe were kidding yourself from the outset. I would just show me someone who saw Gargants and was like, yes, deep, strategic, tactical gameplay. That's what I'm excited for with this army. So that's my point, right? Is if you looked at it and that's what you wanted, you can piss right off. You're not coming into Gargants with the right emotional dexterity.
Mm-hmm. I think Dan's wrong.
What?
I think you need to look at that Gargant book. You need to see how cheap the old rubbishy ones are. You need to realize that if you just mass them, you can win any game, and then you realize they're £42 and they've been out of stock for 3 months, and then you don't bother.
I think you find I think Nathan is gonna 100% disagree with the old ones being rubbish. Nathan?
Yeah, the old ones are great, and the new ones are great, and they're just gonna kick everybody in the dick, and their objectives in the dick too.
I think it's one of those books, isn't it, that probably will mid-table but look amazing. I'm so excited to see someone just put an art here's one giant, here's another big giant, here's another big giant, here's some littler giants.
Yeah,
cool.
All you fuckers are going to lose to giants, and then we're going to see who's laughing.
Okay, listen, I'm ready for it. I'm not gonna lie. I've lost to stupider things, so I'm ready. And I'm okay about it.
There's no way to talk about Speckles on the show. Just straight up saying he's just stupider than a garden.
I don't think there's anything wrong with wanting to be competitive, but I also think that, remember, it's War Dollies, it's a game. Sometimes if the question was, do they release an army, or do we not release it because it's not going to be competitive on the top tables? Gosh, I'd hope that they release that beautiful, ridiculous, absurd bloody army. And so I think that sometimes we can get very caught up in that aspect of things and go but just seeing a bunch of Gargants wandering around, smashing things. And my favorite part is that you can just be an emotionally that dickishness where people are well, if I can't have it, you can't have it. That's what kicking objectives is to me. And I can't wait to do it. When someone's just when I'm well, you know what? I'm not going to catch it, but thunk, neither are you. And my opponent's can can you stop that? You're like, nope. Kick it right to the corner of the table. Kick it on top of an impassable piece of terrain. Like, be that person, and then just watch your opponent be like, you're not going to win. And you're like, yeah, well, you know what? You can't have it either. And then you're like, why are you doing this? You're like, because I didn't get hugged enough as a child, whatever. That's where I think it's going to be fun.
See, I'm okay. Yeah, listen, I agree. I think the emotional way that you should approach these is that you're just going to have the best time ever. Very much like how I assume you should approach the squigs and then just be really upset when they can't even kill pink horrors is kind of the, like, you know, you should buff them up to high heaven, take a specific battalion, can't even kill one pink horror. Well, 10, I guess. So yeah, so that's the news really. Gargants are out. There was actually some tournament news as well for you guys this weekend. Hammer Time 2 is this, or maybe even Hammer Time 3. Oh, thank you everyone for helping us reach our hype train, by the way, on Twitch. Always really fun. Yeah, there's an event this weekend on TTS, which is Owen's Hammer Time event, which you'll be able to sign up to if you'd like to join. I think there's no cap on how many people can join, so you can. There were 2 events this weekend as well. There was the Polish Masters. No, that's not true. Italian Masters. And also there was an event in, now I'm going to get this wrong or right, so who cares? It's either the Netherlands, Norway, or Denmark. And to be honest, who gives a shit which any of it was? It's one of them places. But in one of those places, Legion of Grief came first. And in the Italian Masters, a Boulderhead Ogre Moor Tribes list took out the event, which is quite cool.
No.
Yeah, true story. With 1 block of 6 Mournfang. That's fun.
You're kidding.
Yeah. True story. It really happened.
I would love to know the missions that were played for that one. Like, what were the battle plans? That would be really interesting.
So you should be. So the I'll tweet it to you later. But the guys that run it, Chaos without a H. I think it's just CAOS. Are the Italian guys who run it, and the Italian scene's really, really strong. And obviously they're kind of like ahead of the curve, behind the curve. So they've been able to have a few more events than you would necessarily see. So that's really nice.
I lived in Italy for a little while, and I remember playing a game of it was Warhammer 40k at the time. But when I first arrived there, I didn't speak a lick of Italian. The new Dark Angels Codex at the time had just come out. I was a Dark Angels player, and I played a game with a beautiful Italian bloke in, I think it was Milano, and he didn't speak much English. I didn't speak barely any Italian, but we could still play a game of War Dollies together. God, it was fun. It's all-time one of the best games of War Dollies I've ever played. And it's got one of the cool things. It's like you can play Warhammer with people who don't even speak the language. How crazy is that?
Yeah, it's super cool. I think that's what the attraction is with the ETC, WTC, and all those other things. The ability to go play Warhammer with people who don't speak your language. Obviously, being an English person, I expect everyone to speak the language I speak. And if not, I'm triggered. Like
that's. But isn't that what your people basically just did? Like, didn't they do that? Like I'm talking like when they colonized so many different places. You were like, I'm confused by the sound of your voice. Please make it like mine.
Yeah, absolutely. Right,
Aren't
okay.
you one of our people, Dan?
Well, I went from one colonial place to another, I guess.
There you go.
It's all the same. Right, okay. So should we get on with the subject of the show? Is everyone excited about that?
Probably. Remember that bit about 30 minutes ago where you said the preamble and the opening wouldn't be long this time?
Yeah,
I think we had another hour of preamble.
No, we did really well on the preamble. Do you not think?
Yeah, half an hour is good. It's normally 2. And I think we've probably got better not in person. When we used to preamble in person, it'd be like 2 hours, and Rob would be like, "Right, we'll start the show." And I'd look down and be like, "Oh, I've been here like 3 hours."
Yeah, I know. But it was all news. It was all information and news, right? I think. Okay, so let me tell you what the purpose of today is, because it's kind of part of like I'm going to say some really wanky words now, so get excited. Part of the ecosystem of some updated information that I'm going to bring to people, and hopefully all of this information will synergize with itself. I'm sorry that I said all of that out loud.
I loved it. I want more of that.
Okay.
I want less of that.
Thank you to Parth.
I'll delete that.
Thank you, Dave. Appreciate that. Thank you to Par for subscribing. That's right, Corporate Rob is back. Oh, I'm going to have to drink some water for this. Okay, let me tell you what I mean. So the Honest Wargame website normally has a bunch of lists on, but when we first set that up, they're kind of a little bit outdated now with some guides. So what I'm going to do, or what we're going to do today, is we're going to quickly discuss, I mean there's lots of factions, but we're going to discuss kind of cookie cutter builds that you generally tend to see from factions. Obviously you say Idoneth, you say Eels, right? Like, it's really quick and it's really easy. So if you're new, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to write all these up in detail, looking at tournament results and other stuff on the Honest Wargamer website as well. And then also me and Ziggy, the stats guy, we're going to put those into kind of our like new stats thing now. And we're going to generally, we're going to kick out some like infographics for some stuff, which will be fun as well. So then in the future, as a bedrock or kind of like a baseline of information, if we see an army run a different type of list, let's say it's something like the Super Series or generally just an event in the future, we'll be able to like do a comparison between what we consider to generally be the cookie cutter build. Now, obviously, you can build most armies in loads of ways, but there generally is a populist movement on most armies and things that people think are generally good. Like, for instance, it's this tough one to do with something like Slaves to Darkness, for example, because a lot of the sub-factions are fairly useful, but you can almost guarantee that you're going to see Marauders and Bellicor. Yeah, so the cookie cutter build orientates normally around Marauders and Bellicor, and then you move it around, right? Now, that doesn't mean there aren't Chariot lists, it doesn't mean there aren't Whole Knight lists, it's completely different, but generally, there's a kind of like, there's a baseline. Sense. And then this is meant for new players, so new players can look at it and think, okay, I at least know what I would like to build to, or I would like to know what I want to do differently. So it's not like meant to be a guide, it's meant to be a guide to what you might face, or a guide what you might generally have to deal with. Does that make sense?
Yep.
Okay. I apologize. I apologize about saying the word synergy.
I've just seen in the chat that Hawkeye159 said, sounds like the worst DJ ever. You say Idoneth. I say Idoneth, you say Eels. And I just thought, as I read that, I was like, do you know what? When all this COVID stuff's over, you're a DJ, Rob. Maybe we should have like a really bad night where you play whatever music you want, a load of nerds turn up, but there's catchphrases through the whole night, and you just come on like a wedding DJ, and you're like, Idoneth, and the whole room has to shout Eels. Be brilliant. Terrible. Brilliant.
I guess I'm in.
We'll be selling your own.
I guess you kind of have to be in by the sounds of things. You're running it.
No. Look, the people are in. Selling tickets right now.
Okay, I guess that's what we could do.
And then you can fling objective markers to the crowd like frisbees. You know, like how they have a t-shirt cannon. Yours will just be like 6-inch objective markers.
T-shirt cannon. I've been trying to get a t-shirt cannon at my work every year for the last like 5 years.
Oh dear. Do you know? Just a little side note for everyone in the chat. There's only one. When I used to, so there's a big nightclub in Nottingham called Rock City. When I took over there, I actually the first thing I did was talk to the sound tech and the DJs. I was like, "You're no longer allowed to use a microphone," and the DJ was super offended. Been DJing there for like 15 years. He was like, "Why am I not allowed to use a microphone when I DJ?" And I said, "Well, because the only other person I've ever heard use a microphone when they DJ is the guy that plays music on the Wurlitzers at the carnival or the fair where all the pikeys live." And he was like, "What's that got to do with it?" I was like, "No one uses a microphone. It's disgusting." That's the last thing you want to hear. You think, what do I want to listen to today when I go out? Some music and a 35-year-old man making kind of off-the-cuff remarks about it. You don't want that. Dan?
I like
thoughts?
the idea. Go, Dan.
Go on.
The only remarks I ever like are off the cuff. So I'm concerned that you would say that I don't want that. I want a 35-year-old man standing next to me, nowhere near a cuff, just making remarks. And I think that would be the fun of a night. No?
Okay. Oh, well, there's been a suggestion in the chat, so I'll give it a try. I hate this. I hate this so much. I say sneaky. You say...
Stuffless.
Fuck you.
Thank you, Nathan. Oh.
Yeah, that big goldfish saying that you're stifling creativity. How very dare you? If there is one thing that War Dollies is about, it's about inclusiveness and creativity. And if we want to yell, we shall yell. Oh my gosh, we're at 68. We are at 68 viewers right now. Oh, it's so close.
So close. So close. Okay. All right. Nathan is the OG. Thanks for someone saying Snuffler's really late. Right.
Nikos.
Okay. You guys ready?
Yeah.
Let's do it.
Okay. So cookie cutter builds. Shout them out if you think that they're the cookie cutter build, and if you don't agree with them. So it's pretty simple. Destruction. Let's talk about Iron Jaws. Uruk Warclans. You actually normally almost always see Big War over an Iron Jaws build. Traditionally, is the more cookie cutter, but there's also an Iron Jaws build as well. But I don't really think that book produces a solid Bone Splitters build. Would anyone disagree with that or agree with that sentence?
I think there are some good Bone Splitters builds, but I think they're a bit more specialized. So you probably won't see them. They probably won't be as seen as often as Bone Splitters will be in a Big War. But yeah, I mean, I think there are some, and I think there's some decent lists in there still.
Yeah, I think
because they've got interesting things, especially with the scout moves and stuff like that they can do.
There's some cool stuff that you do see out of Bone Splitters lists, but it's not like no one picks up. I would say that if what we're looking at are the lists where you pick up the book and you go, this is the list, and you think you're being really unique and original, and you put it on Twitter, and then you realize that everybody else who's had the book for as long as you came up with that exact same list.
Yeah.
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 It's not that, again, that they're not out there. The whole purpose of this
they're just not typical.
They're not typical. The kind of the key point, if you guys have seen the very first kind of list breakdown that we did, generally for the Super Series, the idea is that you look at kind of the key units in that book, and obviously if you talk War Chanters and Ardboys are kind of very key units in those books. They work really well together. You don't actually generally tend to see brutes. And you normally almost always, as much as the Iron Jaws sub-factions are also really good as well, there's just so much more synergy in Big War with those key points in the War Chanters and also the Ardboys that you throw together. Because
I think nowadays you see a lot of pigs as well. I think the Gore Grunters are a proper strong choice, and I think you'll see them very often in a Big War list, actually.
Today, I'm just going to point this out. Today, as we're talking, I'm doing research.
Oh, wow.
Everyone hold your breath.
What's that?
Because I also think it's really interesting, because what we're talking about is the cookie cutter build, right? Is most likely. You most likely see Ardboys. There's always probably 2 War Chanters. And Nathan then said, which works really well for me, you quite often see the Gore Grunters now. Well, it just happens that the start collecting Iron Jaws box, as it still is, but obviously Big War as well, that is the box.
It's a good box. It's a good box, definitely.
So it's interesting, isn't it? Because what we're seeing is people use those models, but actually it's a set that you get use out of all of it.
And it's not unusual to see a Maw Crusher, really, would you say?
No, I would say it's actually fairly common to see a Maw Crusher as well. Like, I would actually say that the things we've just described are actually not even sub-faction dependent. Those elements are almost always synonymous with either an Iron Jaws sub-faction, or they generally... Look, I'm so serious today. Or they are in that Big War, right? But all those elements get put into those two, and then you, and that's the idea with the cookie cutter, build idea. Because the other stuff that moves away from that, generally, and then you almost see the Ardfist. I think that's the battalion you see the most. Inside.
When you say it's the Iron Fist,
the Iron Fist, one of
because that's the one that gives you the hero phase activation, so they can take that into because Big War doesn't come with that naturally, but they can take that into the Big War and get a hero phase activation in there using that.
Iron Fist has pretty much been a staple since the very first Iron Jaws book with formations, though. I don't think I've seen a tournament list that's done top tables without one. Has anyone else?
Yeah.
Maybe Iron Suns.
There was a phase when Ard Fists were everywhere, but then the FAQ came out and said, you can only do it once and it brings back the unit that you delete, and you can't bring that unit back and stuff like that. So, so that's sort of made it a bit more, brought it back into line. So you do see it occasionally, like we saw it in the Super Series, the first matchup. We actually saw an Ironjaw's army with an Hard Fist in the Bloodtooths, which are very all atypical things. So, but yeah.
Okay. All right. Good. All great stuff there. So if you new people, hear all that information, absorb it, put it in your mind, go read some things. I don't think there's anything else we've left out there generally. So that's the cookie cutter as I see it. Normally you see them taken in the big wild Ironjaws, but it's those key units that go into those with those other battalions. Right. Okay. Moving on to Ogre Moor tribes, because again, it's literally just one unit, and it's a Stonehorn. And maybe it's got a Frostlord on, maybe it's got a Huskard on, maybe it's just a Beast Rider, but it's just a Stonehorn. Am I wrong, or like, what do you guys think?
Well, the only other one I'd throw in there is Gluttons. I know that people play around with them. I see them a lot.
I think you see them. I think you'll see them a lot. I don't know. I don't think Rob thinks they're the most competitive, but I do think you'll see a lot of lists have got Gluttons in. So if you're preparing to fight against Ogre Moor tribes, you can sort of expect to be fighting against Gluttons.
You can. Can you though? Like, I don't think. I don't know. I don't agree with that. I think the ones that you see post results are always Stonehorn heavy, like 1, 2, sometimes 3. Like that's the general factor. And then also, like, just to go along with James's starter box kind of like thing, obviously you get them plus some Mournfang in box.
It's a good box.
I just don't see many Glutton lists at all doing well.
I think.
Well, every time I've played against them, they've always had Gluttons.
Okay.
I think for me, if we're talking about playing well at an event, I think like a Glutton list is strong. But I think predominantly, if you went, okay, we're just looking at like the most obvious way into a unit or an army or sub-faction or whatever we want to class it as, probably most. Like if you walk through the tables and you're like ogre player, I would say you'd see more Stonehorns, wouldn't you, than you would see Gluttons.
True. Yeah. Yep. Fair enough.
I think is probably the. I think
you'll find 90% of them will have Stonehorns, but you'll find, I reckon, at least 70% of them will also have Gluttons. Maybe not big units, but quite often the unit of 12 Gluttons seems to be a popular choice, even though some people don't rate it.
It's honestly the unit of 12 Gluttons for me is only good in a Blood Gullet list because you get that 6-inch pile in. That's the only thing that gives them that strength. Otherwise, 12 of them, they just don't get far enough. They don't get enough of them in. But yeah, no, I'd rate that. I think so as well. You always see Stonehorns. You regularly see Gluttons, but sometimes they'll be Ironjaws, sometimes they'll be Mournfang, sometimes they'll be Leadbelchers. I just think that you see them regularly enough that if you're not ready for them, then again, I guess arguably, if you got something that can take out a Stonehorn, you can take out Gluttons.
Yeah. Okay. And normally you see them like synonymous. So when we get to Fire Slayers, for instance, it's Hearthguard Berserkers in Hermdar. Like for instance, like it's just going to be that's a cookie cutter list, right?
Yeah.
Like, whereas even sub factions in this case, like Stonehorns in Boulderhead, make sense. But there's a cool Iron Guts list recently that did okay. That was in Winterbite, which I thought was fun. But like again, I'm not necessarily certain that that's super strong. But has been knocking the results out and is generally, I would say, the starter box / starter build / cookie cutter build is Stonehorns. So when you do see 2 blocks of 12 Gluttons, that's actually the aberrance away from the list you expect. Does that make sense? That's what I'm trying to create today. The idea that this is the list you expect from an army, and when you see something different, that's cool. I'm not trying to like stifle creativity. If anything, I'm creating a baseline so the creativity beyond that is something super exciting. You're like, oh my god, like it's, he's only got saber tusks, and Yetis.
Oh dear.
Yeah.
Good list.
That
Good
guy.
list.
So that's more
Great
tribes.
guy, bad list.
So that's more tribes for everyone. So pick up, start collecting books a couple of times generally.
Yeah.
On to Gits. Now, Nathan, I know every single unit in Gits is basically the best unit in the game. I get it.
Yeah.
Is it though?
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, don't fight with Nathan.
I'm on the other side of the world. I'll throw stones all I want.
But and also big shout out to Gitley in the chat for saying that he's got a Huskard on about the more tribes lists, but he feels like he might be a glutton for punishment. All of which was great. He also earlier on said that if you're not a subscriber on the Honest Wargamer Patreon or Twitch, you're in the. If you are, you're in the Grot Gang. But if you're not, you're the Not Gang. And who wants to be in that? Who wants to be in the Not Gang? Not me.
No one should want to be in the Not Gang.
Yeah, the Not Gang sucks.
The Not Gang is for weedy little noblars, and we are grots. Far superior.
Super powerful. although now we're talking about their book, terrible. So although I have lost to it twice last week, so what can I say? Nath,
Yes.
Dan, James, is there a cookie cutter build for Gits?
That's
Or
a good question. Because I think it's one of the books where you see a wide variety of things, and you pretty much, if somebody says I'm playing Gloomspike Gits, I think your guess is as good as anybody's. Because I think you see squiggle launchers, you see trog herds, you see skulk mob hordes, you see even occasionally you see some spiders, and they're
Honestly,
not infrequent.
Netters. Netters for me.
Oh
Yeah.
my god.
Just if there was an archetype, it's like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
Taking netters. What about the rest of your army? I have netters. But what's in the army? Netters. They'll make you cry. But how do you beat me? Netters until you give up on life. Like that for me is the
Have you
every
ever been
time
at -4 to hit? Now you have.
The other day,
See this unit of easily destroyable models, like just some of the weakest in the game that are clearly a horde that you need to churn your way through. Yeah, okay, so I'm gonna have to work to churn my way through them. No, because you're not actually gonna be allowed to touch them. Is the thing. Because see this guy with a net? Oh yeah, he's really short, and that's a very small net. That's gonna be very easy for my models to get around. You think that, but no.
no.
Yeah.
I played Nathan on, I think it was Thursday. I charged in, and he went, just so you know, you -1 to hit. And I was like, just so you know, dickhead, I've been playing this game with you for 4 fucking years. And that specific fucking netter has probably minused many of my units. Like, that netter at this point has reduced many of my attacks over years of play. Yeah? Thanks for reminding me, I had forgotten. So, yes.
It's true, but I mean, everybody brings netters these days. Freaking, even horrors have got their own netters now, don't they? If they're standing near a character, so
Yeah.
yeah, -1 to hit is very, very common now across everywhere.
Can we just mention that Owen in the chat said he attempted to Hand of Dust a netter at Brotherhood, and he failed him. The guy failed. That's how powerful netters are.
You got netted.
He threw the net around his finger. He was like, oh no, oh god.
No, a net.
I'm the Supreme Lord of Death. I've been alive for eons, but a net.
Oh my gosh, no, this is why I never fight against fishing villages.
Most powerful weapon in all of Sigmar.
Yes,
a
people
net.
has corrected it in the chat. Feckin' netterlisters. They're the worst. Anyway,
there's nothing more heartbreaking than when you charge into one of those big units and you're like, all right, I need to smash these guys up, and then someone's like, this is where my netters are, and you're like, I forgot about them. And admittedly, in a tournament, you should never forget about netters, but I always do. And then I feel my heart cry a single tear for the many turns of combat I'm going to be stuck in just trying to grind away 20 stabbers.
Am I right in saying that the net range is 2 inches, Dave? Oh, have I lost him? Nathan Prescott. Oh my god, he's been netted. I think the range. Oh, okay, so yeah, there was a moment, and I'm not unhappy admitting this, where because I was using my Chaos Dwarves for a year. there was a moment where I charged Nathan's Grots for the umpteenth time, and then I was like, oh my god, the range of my attacks on the Kadai is 3 inches. And I just stayed outside of 2, yeah? And it's like, and it hadn't occurred to me for months. And I was like, yes! It was the happiest I'd ever been. I was just like swiping at full power. I was like, oh, Nathan, you're still there. Oh, you're back. Your video's gone. Oh, okay. All right. Hopefully, this will catch up in a moment. The old game. Okay. All right. So gits for new people. So you may see Trogherd. Also, I saw Trog in the chat earlier. Big love to Trog. You may see Trogherd, but probably like in 3rd place. Who else would you think to see?
Can you hear me?
Okay.
Though?
Yeah, I fixed it. Okay, good. Right, we can hear everyone. Let's get on. So, Gits, welcome back, everyone. Gits, you get Trogherd, but you traditionally just see lots of Gits, right? With a Madcap. I can't think of anything else that you would see.
I think it's, like I said, it's quite hard to say of a typical list, because you do frequently see squig lists. I think it's just because the models are so cool, and they're actually pretty fast, and they can become a bit of an alpha strike, especially if they take the new Jaws of Mork. So I expect you'll see more of those. They will become more typical. But yeah, I think if you're talking about top tables, probably the Gits lists that you see on the top tables, which will be typical, have probably got a couple of big blocks of Gits, and then backed up by little buffing units like Sneaky Snufflers, Shamans, and the like.
Yeah. Like you see a traditional kind of mixed arms list is how I picture them. With if you're Pete, obviously you're always going to have 6 Trogs in there as well, which is always something I think is a thing. Okay, so we've done destruction. There's obviously mixed destruction, but we're just going to ignore that because that's okay. We're going to move on to order now, because order's kind of a little bit more. But it's also a little bit complicated when you move on to some of the chaos is going to be a very complicated one to discuss, I think, especially for new people, because they'll be like, "What do you mean?" Okay, so going through order, nice and simply. So first one is Cities of Sigmar, which you generally tend to see. So Cities of Sigmar, I'm right in thinking, I think the cookie cutter build that is quite often, I think you can see all the time now, is the, not Anvil Guard, don't know why Anvil Guard's in my head and I can't get that out, is...
Tempest Eye
yes.
and Living City.
Yeah.
Tempest Eye and Living City.
Yeah.
I think they're probably the most popular. And you actually see quite a few dwarves in those these days. So the Iron Drakes are probably the shooters of choice, although you do see a lot of handgunners as well. And then probably backed up with Hurricanums and Luminarchs and that sort of thing.
Well, I would say Hurricanum is the most cookie cutter thing that you see in these lists.
Yeah.
I think the real question when you see a list is you say, why doesn't it have a Hurricanum in it?
And the question for me always ends up being like, is it? And yes, chat, I see all the crap that you're throwing in there about elves like every 30 seconds. Okay, I am just rising above your pettiness. I think when I see it, I always ask the question like, is it a hero or not? It's not a question of whether it's there or not. It's like, is it casting magic at me?
Yeah, I think so. This is all designed for 2020. This cookie cutter kind of build. So we'll probably go back to it again. Like, probably not after the winter points changes, because I don't think they'll be particularly severe. So obviously next year. So hopefully this will last for about a year generally. So I think you're going to see, or you might see, and you should see a lot of Dispossessed. You should see a lot of Iron Drakes. They're obviously very, very solid right now. A lot of Shield Breakers, they're also really, really solid right now. So those are really, really good key elements. Now, obviously, you might also see a bunch of Phoenix Guard, But I'm not necessarily set on that, to be honest. I think Hurricane and Dispossess makes sense. I don't think the Shadow Warriors thing ever really panned out.
Or Shadow Warrior.
Poor Shadow Warriors. There was a lot of talk about them, but it never was a thing. So I feel like Hurricane and Dispossessed is definitely some key elements that you see fairly often. You don't generally see like the big Phoenix, sometimes you see the Frostheart Phoenix, but not so much. You almost always see an allied in Celestant Prime. I would say that's pretty common. And apart from that, like you can still run quite well the Hallowheart build if you really wanted to. But I mean, I would say that's a cookie cutter in of itself. It's its own specific build, right?
Yep.
Yeah. Okay.
It's, I would say, yeah, Tempest-Eye. The one that you see a lot of is Living City, the pop and drop, like Iron Drakes and what are they? The ladies with the flaming bows.
Sisters of the Watch.
Sisters of the Watch. Yeah, you see that a lot.
Anything that can just pop out and shoot you a load.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay, so that's Cities of Sigmar. That is Cities of Sigmar. I think we've there's also the Chariot List, which is a meme. That's a meme list. It's not a cookie cutter list. That doesn't count. And the Pistoliers list is also good, but again, that's more aberrant. I think you. Sorry.
It's also more towards memey, isn't it? Like the Pistoliers is like, this is what I do. I've got 3 war scrolls: run forward, shoot, retreat, shoot, run, shoot.
Yeah. Right. So these are all like, again, these are things that can be like built upon, really. So then Daughters of Cain, the old DOK. Now obviously they got a new book soon, so this might not be particularly fresh forever, but generally we haven't discussed any chaos yet, Cameron, in the chat. Generally with the Daughters of Cain, you almost always see Morathi, you almost always see a Hag Queen on Cauldron of Blood. And, I mean, this writes itself, to be honest. Do we need any discussion?
No.
Okay.
Some Witch Elves, done.
No, you generally see Sisters of Slaughter at the minute. You generally see
but
Sisters
they're not
of Slaughter.
pretty.
Well, it's because of that 6-inch piling, and I think, like, it's a holdover from the Activation Wars, which aren't we all kind of happy the Activation Wars are over?
Oh my gosh, yes. Ish.
Doesn't Croak have Activation Wars?
No.
Oh, he's just boring.
There's one thing he doesn't have. Like, or he has everything else. This is his one thing.
Yeah,
not that.
And you almost always see Heart Renders ×2. Almost always see Heart Renders ×2. Like, which is pretty common. So, are they, though? What's the question? Mine, this is for new folk. You want to cover the basics. I do want to cover the basics. So Morathi, I think, is a yes. And if not, you just end up with more Witch Elves or Sisters of Slaughter. Although I generally tend to see Sisters of Slaughter taken more nowadays than Witch Elves. And I think it's because of the 6-inch piling. The 2 units of Heart Renders for grabbing back objectives. And the Hag Queen on Cauldron, normally because you're running Hagnar and you're getting that 5-up DPR in a big bubble because of that big old base. And it's more wounds on your general who's giving it out. So it's almost that's the cookie cutter, and then you just add stuff on.
Every time I come up against a Daughters of Cain list, that's in my head. That's the list I build, and then it's only like what's different, like what's going to change from that, and usually it's not much. When it is, I'm like, oh, this is exciting, and then when it's the same, I'm like, yeah, fair enough. There we go.
Yeah. This is the whole point of the show, so that people can just kind of be like, okay, that's fun. I can either collect it or I can. I know what I'm facing up against. So, Fire Slayers. I would like to know that the impetus for this show came specifically off some random's Facebook post who yesterday or maybe a couple of days ago, when I thought up the idea for this show, posted in a Facebook group, went, "Hey everyone, rate my list." And it was just 3 times 20 Hearthguard Berserkers. Yeah. And I was like, And someone underneath it just wrote yawn, and I was like, yes. But you don't build anything else, right? So
No.
it's Hearthguard Berserkers, it's the Magmadroth normally, and it's Herm. I get this wrong all the time. It's Hermdar and Lords of the Lodge, I think, is the right one. Is the two that you take. Does anyone know specifically? I think that's basically it. It's Hermdar, Lords of the Lodge.
Yeah.
Yeah, Hermdar gives you the
Extra.
activation, is it?
Yeah.
And then the other one gives you striking at the start of the being able to do the activation wars, which we said were finished, but they are the kings of it. So yeah,
They are. Yeah, that's true. That's true. And the Norsidian icon, as Owen has pointed out in the chat, is pretty vital as an actual artifact choice. It's like one of those, like very much like with Hagnar and the command trait, which allows you to increase your Blessing of Cain from a 6+ to a 5+. That's what you take. I think it's the command trait that does it.
no, the Nelsonian icon is the one that helps you.
Oh, that is ignore spells.
Yeah.
I knew that one. I was just saying, sorry. The Norsidian icon is as important as the Hagnar command trait that you have to take, because it lets you ignore spells on a 5+. Question, James: why are you the only person on the internet who can pronounce Hearthguard?
I don't know. Am I the only person that can?
Yeah, go for it. Tell me.
Never say it again now.
I don't know what I said. Did I say Hearthguard?
Is it
Hearthguard?
Hearth?
No,
it's
because
Hearth.
it's spelled Hearth. Is it Hearth?
It's Hearth.
Hearthguard.
Or yeah, a fire has got a hearth.
Yeah,
Doesn't
a
have a
hearth.
hearth, does it?
Well, no, a fire's only got flames, Nath. A fire doesn't have anything. It's just
The
a fire.
The home
Hey,
of a fire is its,
A Hearth.
is its hearth.
It's
Oh,
from
no, I
my,
think-
Flames.
I think MJ Pegasus, you'll find that's pronounced Hrath. So maybe that's what we should be calling
Hrath.
Hrathguard.
Harath.
Can you
Okay.
imagine just going to a tournament and intentionally slightly mispronouncing every single unit? Just to really, and when your opponent's like, I
But
think you'll find
differently
it's,
every time you say it as well.
yeah, when they're like, I think you'll find it's pronounced the Eidolon, and you'll be like, actually, it's pronounced Eidolon. Yeah, and they'll be like,
Eidolon.
really? And you'll be like, yeah, I know the bloke in the design team. It's the Eidolon.
It's
and
the
that is, that's
Eidolon.
cool. and then just watch as you leave, just a sea of people are like, is that guy like some kind of genius, or do they just know the language really, really well?
Yeah, I'm with that. Yeah, Knob Bell Ars. I'm into that. Yeah,
No, Bellas.
yeah. A Frostal Ord.
Sorry, Dydrin is correcting me by saying that plot twist, you'd never see one in a tournament anyway, so it's a moot point, which is very good.
Okay, all right. So next up, Idneth. Not particularly complicated. I'm just going to write the word eels and move on. But for new people, in case for some reason you were unaware, the ability to always strikes first, plus probably one of the most cohesively strong war scrolls in the game, produces a 1 war scroll army in Achillean, specifically Morsar Guard. Some people will, to be a bit fruity, take the defensive eels until they only win 3 games instead of 4 that they classically win, and then they go back to having the offensive eels. It's generally the kind of process, unless anyone has got anything else to add. And obviously, I've got to add the word vaulty. Vaulty. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I mean, what else were there? Oh no, the thing that lets him pop up from the board edge. What's his name?
Oh, the Soul Scryer.
Soul
Fishman.
Scryer. Yeah.
Yeah,
The pointy person's useful too. Is that the same one?
Yeah,
that's-
that's what, it's the Soul Scryer Eels combo.
Yeah, Soul
Pointy,
Scryer is the
pointy?
pointy one. He is the pointy
Oh.
one. Yeah. Pointy
mean
man.
the-
Correct.
The Soul Scryer.
The Soul Scryer.
The Soul Scryer. Maybe we should just do everything with really bad French accents instead.
Yes, this is Scryer.
The Soul Scryer.
I'll be a rummy the rest of the time and then just pronounce names in really bad French. And then when people are like, I think you're pronouncing that wrong, I'll be like, did you not know Games Workshop was French?
Games Workshop.
Good moaning. Anyway, so next up, Carriage and Overlords. Now, cookie cutter builds for these are actually fairly rare, but I generally tend to see them built around Barrack Ziflin, is what I almost always see. And then there's always an Ironclad in there. I would argue there's always engine
I
riggers.
disagree. There's not always an Ironclad.
Okay. You don't think the Ironclad is in almost every list?
No, I think it's in 70% of lists, maybe.
Okay.
I don't know. It'd be interesting to see actually if there is a what the exact percentage of lists take it to tournaments.
Vortex.
Because I think
go on.
Because I think you quite often see frigates with Arcanauts in that Iron Sky Squadron or whatever it is that lets them jump out at any point rather than just at the beginning.
Oh yeah, true.
Yeah, no, I would say that you see that battalion a lot as well. I was about to mention that. You normally see the Iron Sky Attack Squadron and the Iron Sky Attack Squadron. Anyway, like, I know that if you are new, you're like, there'll all be lists on the Honest Wargamer website soon. So if you follow our Twitter, and if you follow, I'm going to post them up, is the whole idea. Iron Sky Attack Squadron. And it shouldn't be that difficult to do. But see, what's interesting about KO, which is what's really fun for new people, for you guys to be excited about if you're interested in getting to Carriage and Overlords, or if you're not new but you want to move over to them, is actually amongst the Carriage and Overlords community, how specifically you build some of those armies, like Nathan said, is actually fairly diverse, unlike Fire Slayers, where sometimes, I think you almost always have an Ironclad, like 70-80% of the time. But sometimes you have a lot more bodies in the Arcanauts and you have less engine riggers, as an example. But, you know, I'm willing to be like... I think that's a book that's still being explored, right?
Yeah. It's still pretty new.
Yeah, I agree with that. Gunshot Escort Ziflin says... so Romar Winters, who's in the chat... Romar Winters, by the way, his actual name is the real Mr. Winters, and I've never once got that right.
You should have said that with a French accent.
Oh my gosh.
The real Mr. Winter, Monsieur Le Winter.
It's cracked. It's shattered for me now.
He's not from a realm. He's just a normal dude.
Realm Winters. I prefer that, though.
Sunk in.
But I prefer Relmar Winters. I much prefer that, yeah.
That's what it is now.
Maybe we should pronounce his name wrong every week as well.
Yeah. Monsieur Le Winter.
What about... welcome to the Honest Wargamer. I'm your host, Robe.
Yes, I'm into that. Right, so this one's going to be a challenge, I guess, because if there was a hipster army that wanky, coiffed, like soft-handed, like fucking decaf latte drinkers would collect. I drink decaf lattes, by the way. It would be the Luminous Lords. Yeah? All right?
Wonder.
Is it weird that I didn't see that coming?
Sentinels.
I saw it coming. I realised halfway through there's 50% of the stream have brought those models, so we were going to get a dig.
Yeah, shout out to everyone in the chat, or the guys helping me do the stream today. There's obviously me, Robe, there's Jaime, Newfie, and Dangle. Anyway, Luminous Lords. Now, every Luminous Lord player will tell you that there isn't a cookie cutter build at all. I'm going to say that, but I'm going to write the word Sentinels, and I'm going to look you square in the eye. That's what I'm going to write. And I'm also going to write Calathar down. Have you guys got any thoughts on this?
Well, so, okay, the only thing I would say is it's easy to say Calathar and the Stone Mage as well, but they're also the only unnamed characters that they have access to. So if you want to take a command trait or an artifact, you need one. So I would say you're always going to see those. Sentinels, yeah, I mean, I've got 10 in my list because I think they're just good to do it. But I think that the problem is that for a first release, they do have a smallish. They don't have quite the breadth of units that they could take. Same with if you were to compare the Hammer Boys to the Pokey Sticks, the Pokey Sticks are just better battle line for your buck as well.
It's definitely confirmed Dan's still part dwarf. That description as an elf should have been pikes and hammers.
Apparently, it's really
Mallets.
easy to say Cathalar, but none of us can. Can anyone say it? Cathalar? Cathalar?
I think you'll find it's pronounced Cathola. See, it's a double L there, or a single L, whatever. It's Cathola.
Yeah.
Oh,
No, going by the Realmar Winters, actually, it would be the Cat Hauler.
Yes. So
Bloody hell.
For this particular army, the Cat Halar, lots of cows and guard in your metric kit is a thing. I agree with that, but I feel that that's a more hipster fringe build that you're generally going to see over what I would say is the cookie cutter Sentinels, Wardens, and of course Teclis. I would say is the cookie cutter build, and then it's not that this is the best list, although I feel that that's one of the stronger lists. It's more, what do I think you're going to see the most of, and then everything beyond that, like a Geometrica cow build, is going to be very different. Like the Stone Mage, you're not going to see other than in that Geometrica build, I think. The Thunder Cathalar. So that's what I would consider to be a cookie cutter simple list. But there's also just spam Sentinels, which might override that because it's just gross if you've not
90 Sentinels.
Yeah, it's just a lot of Sentinels. As Owen says that Zytrex seems to be most popular on TTS, but I assume that's because everyone owns the other models, I would say. But maybe not. Maybe not. See, this one's got an asterisk next to it for you new people because it's not been out long enough and there hasn't been enough tournament results for us to really actually identify some of that stuff, right? Yeah. Right, so that's the Luminous Realm Lords.
Sorry, the Sentinel weapon is called the Toothpick Flinger. Because there's a pointy stick and then that one flings a toothpick at you from a long way away.
Right, so next up is Seraphon. And it's okay, I can literally write the list off the top of my head.
Okay, go.
Would you like me to do it for you?
I think it's got 3 things. Wait, I'm just going to write them down before you start.
Let's play Seraphon Bingo. Let's play Seraphon Bingo, everyone.
How we go.
Write your 3 units down you think I'm going to mention.
And whoever gets gets bingo first. So maybe if you just list units, whoever gets bingo first.
Oh, hang on then. I feel like I should. I feel like I could do the whole list, but okay, let's go.
Yeah, I think we all could.
I'm gonna try and do them all. Hang on.
Play along in the chat. Play along in the chat.
I'll give you all 2 minutes. I'll give you all 2 minutes to play along in the chat. As Nathan has that painting coming along.
That's coming along great. I haven't got a writing implement. Do you want me to paint it somewhere?
It's okay. It's okay. We 100%. I don't trust the elf players, but I trust you implicitly, obviously.
All right, let's do this.
Okay. Okay. So I'm going to work backwards because you guys might not have this. Okay. So
3.
the Skinks Star Priest.
Yep, got him.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
So Star Priest, he's in there. Pretty important. Okay. Skinks.
Got that.
Yeah.
Yep. 2 for 2 so far.
Okay. Or as I like to call them, skanks. Then next up, the Astrolothian Bunabura.
Bingo.
Oh, you got it. You got bingo.
Yeah.
Okay.
Damn it.
I've got 3 more things.
Okay, well, it's not very complicated beyond here. So there's Astroth Banabera, there's Croak, obviously. Yeah. And then
on one more.
Salamanders.
Oh.
Bingo!
Oh, yeah. And that's your list.
And Bound Balewind.
Oh, of course.
Yeah.
Not
Yeah,
even
come
bound.
on.
Not bound Balewind. Cost you an
Just
extra
a
10 points.
Regular Balewind. Yeah.
Just
No one
a
else can
Balewind
take control of
vortex.
it from you. Yeah.
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 Just Balewind Vortex. I remember when Skinks were skilled to wield. Yeah, they were. Being a Seraphon player who isn't actually good is like turning up on a date knowing you're no looker, but you have a massive wang.
I remember when the
I'm
book came
keeping
out
that one.
and everybody was triggered because Skinks had lost the retreat from combat thing.
Yeah.
And then
we
they
were-
read their actual
And
rules.
then they discovered that they didn't need to retreat because they were going to fuck everything up anyway.
Well,
So
and
why do we run away when we can murderize you?
and that's the important part, because they actually didn't. Because you normally... Oh, sorry, again, thank you for subscribing, you gorgeous fella. So normally, almost always, you see this army taken in the fangs of Sotek. Now, there are good listeners, noble Warhammer players, people who've been playing this book a while, and of course you want to tell me that you are a special flower who runs a different one. And I agree with you. This is just the cookie cutter build, because you play a couple more Saurus Guard. Now, I haven't written down the 5 Saurus Guard, which is in every list as well, sorry. I literally have just written the list like a billion times. Anyway, 5 Saurus Guard. I know that you're super special, so but don't worry. So next, this is quite funny because it really does trade up when you go through the S's. Stormcast. Okay. So the Stormcast cookie cutter build, James, Nathan, you got any shout outs on that?
So for me at the minute, I think the cookie cutter Stormcast build's just going to be Shootcast.
It is correct.
So
Nate?
what is that? Judicators and ballistas and
No,
Those are long-
no.
long strikes?
It's long strikes. Yeah.
Is
It's normally 3x3 long strike raptors, is what you traditionally see at events. So you normally see 3x3 long strikes. Now sometimes you see them in the Grand Battalion, where it's the 3, the Angelus Conclave. That's that battalion. So you normally see all of those together in a 1-drop. That's one. So Big Sean over in New Zealand was running that. Other people have run that as well. There's also like a variant with Castigators, which is super fucking weird. But normally 3x3 long
model.
strikes, or a big brick of long strikes, which you could also rock as well. And then a big punch. You take all those battalion points out, and you just get a big punching unit inside of it. So that's the shootcast that I'm talking about. But it's always around. So that's the anvils of Heldenhammer as well, isn't it? So that's the sub faction for that army. So again, you'll be able to find these lists on the site over the next week or so, effectively. But it is Shootcast is the Stormcast go-to right now, and there is not any other lists. It is definitely not just wave after wave of Liberators and Retributors. And
That
thank
was
you,
the thing,
Scrivo.
Just
Go on.
sequiturs.
Huh?
Just that's once upon a time when it was just sequiturs.
Just Sequiturs all day.
It was
All day.
like 2 30s of Sequiturs and 120 of Evocators, or 2 10s of Evocators, or something like that.
Yeah. Do you remember when it
Oh,
was?
with all what's his face? Short charge. What was his name?
Gabriel Shore Charge.
Gabriel
Oh,
Shore
yeah.
Charge. It's not even his name, but that's just what it's become.
Sure Heart. Sure Heart.
I don't
Yeah,
know.
sure.
Yeah.
'Cause he was one of those Harbinger models that was released, and they were really hyped up, and then they came out and everyone was like, eh.
Well, also, the other problem with all the Stormcast heroes were they're like, cool, Hammer's a Sigmar hero, no other chamber allowed.
Yeah.
I also like Long's Trikes, which is another good name for.
Long
there's-
strikes.
There is, by the way, there is a side Reign of Stars build, which is a bit janky, but we won't talk into that. That's not
No.
quite as cookie cutter, I would say.
No one wants to start with that build.
No one want. No, you don't want it. No, what do you do? I just rain mortal wounds at range. So here we go. This is where it starts to get real fruity. Sil Van Ethers.
Don't bother. Next one.
Yeah.
So normally it's a brick of Colonel Thunters in the Dreadwood.
Yeah.
Is the normal
Yeah.
build. Not the successful build, but that's the build. So
Is there a successful build at the moment?
it's
Or is
the
there just
more-
a
it's more the-
slightly less shit build.
Alariel, 0 points. Come on. Treadwood.
12.
With
12
hunters.
points.
With hunters. There is a bow build as well. Just like everyone to know, no one takes it. No one takes it. But of course, never forget, I did lose a game to Sylvaneth against Owen. So don't mind admitting.
Haven't even all the like long-term Sylvaneth players have given them up now, haven't they?
Yeah. I think generally I saw a Sylvaneth results. No, maybe that was when I was doing the team analysis stuff. No, most of them, yeah.
I think I would say that, like, tournament-wise, we're not seeing anywhere near as many of them. However, I would say that, like, player-wise, I still see a lot of people playing them for the same reason that heaps of people used to play Ironjaws back when they were shocking, because they are a beautiful army. They're fun to build and paint and play. Like, they're still entertaining to play, but when we're talking like competitive and tournament side of things, and you don't really see all that much.
No, you don't. You don't. Also, big shout out to the Captain Moore, who's let us know that all Sylvaneth players have branched out. They've definitely upped roots. Yeah, they don't feel like playing like a sap anymore.
They've made like a tree and leaved.
Yeah. Did
that work?
They've realised that Sylvaneth's bark is worse than its bite. I think is the. Thank you. I'm here all week. This is why. Anyway. Yeah. Oh, what's happened? Finally twigged, branched out. I think everyone's just like.
I think they're just paying their respects for how bad things have gotten, you know.
Oh, I'm sorry, everyone. Right, okay. So we're down. Order is done. And again, you don't need me to explain again that this is meant to be just it's for newish people, and there are loads of variants on this. So on to death before we get into probably the most complicated one, which is chaos. So death. I'm going to ask you guys if you're interested. So you're going to do an OCArchs build. What OCArchs build would you see? Would you expect?
A crawler, at least 1 or 2 crawlers.
Yeah. 2 crawlers. Then you would do Xantos with them as well, because he gives them reroll to wound, I think. Then probably you take Big Boy Catacross because you're in Mortis Praetorians, and then you have some guard. So, and it's pretty much that's the way to go. Those 2 crawlers, if you're not prepped for them, they could just win you games without much effort, I think, generally. Bone Daddy for life. The Nagash build isn't as popular, or it's not like the common build, right?
Now that whatever the Petrifex have changed, no. When Petrifex existed, it was Nagash and Mortarch, and Praetorians, and that was pretty much your go-to. But now it's changed with that.
Yeah.
Well, so
funny how removing the. I'm just going to say, funny how removing the busted sub-faction really changed the shape of play for that entire book.
It didn't, though, I don't think. It just meant that you had to take Catacross. Like, whereas the exciting build, none of these cookie cutter builds, by the way, are there's meant to be no criticisms. Oh, you're running the cookie cutter build, you're a dick. None of that. Zero of that. It's just that these are the optimum efficiencies in the book. Whereas the list that I really, really like, as is being talked about in the chat, is Nagash, Staliart Lords, Kavalos Death Wedge. Is it the Death Wedge? And you just yam them over turn 1. You're just like, what are you going to do now? I've got protection and Nagash up. I'm fucking throwing some horses at you. You're having a great time. But that's not the build, right? That's not the standardized.
The best game I ever played against them, my opponent was taking the Crematorians, the ones that blow up when they die, and then was all of it was built around killing his own star, like getting it into combat, getting it killed, and then resurrecting it. God, it was like frustratingly hilarious because I'd be like, yeah, I killed all these guys. And it was like mortal wounds exploding back on me. I was like, and then they were coming back to life. It was such an exciting game. You'd never see it like competitively top table though. It's you'd need to be a master to make that one get up the top there.
I mean, if you run enough Mortec with guard, and you run them with the harvesters, you can bring them back, like explode them and bring them back, but it's not quite enough output. But before the crawlers got fixed, harvesters got fixed, me and Nathan played that exact game, and it was hilarious because he was just killing himself. He just blew up his whole army against my army.
There just aren't that many armies out there that can win tournaments by trying to kill all of their own models.
It's perfect. And Nathan, you played against it. What did you think?
Yeah, it was a tricky one. It was quite similar to playing against the Plague Touch Warband that I played against once with my orcs, and ended up doing loads of damage to myself just because every time you hit them on a 6 or whatever, you take damage. So it was tough old times, especially for combat armies like orcs. So yeah.
Okay, so next guys. For those guys, Flesh Eater Courts is James. Flesh Eater Courts. Give me the build.
5 dragons. 5 5 terror guys. 2 with the Lord, and the extra Lord who gives me some free units.
I think. In what sub faction are you going to take those?
Oh no! Now you're testing me. The Speckles one.
Dan?
Blister Skin.
It's Gristlegore.
Gristlegore. I dig on Gristlegore, but if you're doing the one where it's Flappy Boys and the mini Flappy Boys, Blister Skin, they just fly across the board. Gristlegore is the bread and butter, though.
Yeah, I think that's their bread and butter, and I don't think that's changed in 2020. I just think it's changed in popularity. I think the Gristlegore list has been... sorry, not Gristlegore. Sorry. The... Blisterkin list is as good as it's ever been, but it's always played second fiddle. Like,
that's fair.
You know, you're the P latte / soy boy of the Flesh Eater Courts community. That's me, by the way. And you're the one who's playing with the Blisterkin list. Generally, it's harder to do. So normally you see G-Cots, and you often would see Ghoul Patrol. But I don't know, and a Chalice is that underrated, like, its importance can't be... Sometimes I'll watch a bat rep, or I'll watch a tournament game, and someone doesn't unbind the Chalice, and I'm like, why? like first thing. I bet every Flesh Eater Courts player really undersells it as well. It's like, oh, and I've got an endless spell, this Chalice, and you're like, have you? Like, is it good?
What's it gonna do? Oh, nothing special. Just don't even worry about it.
Yeah. So that's Flesh Eater Courts. So OC Arcs, Flesh Eater Courts, and then there's LON. There's Legions of Nagash here. Now, lots to be said about Legions of Nagash, in that I think it's generally unsubscribed. Tony in the chat right now, actually, everyone said the big man Nagash was useless, and Legion of Nagash was done, and then he ended up just winning an event next year after everyone said it. But this is 2020 now. We've had some battle plan changes and points changes. Have you guys got any kind of different lists that you think exist here or not? And also thanks to AoS Tim for subscribing.
I think if you're talking archetype, then I think you're still talking about Reapers, aren't you?
I'm still thinking Archon. Like, Archon for me is the one that shows up in almost all of them.
So I think the mechanic for you new people to understand how the army works, effectively there's a general and he just resurrects units. That's generally the done thing. I'd actually argue that chain ghasts have moved into the popular zeitgeist because you just get so many, and Reapers went up so much in points that the cost efficiency between Reapers and chain ghasts is that you probably now, where you maybe you would have seen 3 units of Reapers, you'll now see 2 chain grass and a Reapers, just so you've got kind of more toys generally in points. But you would always also see a Necromancer, because you would want that double piling. So that happens a lot. Is generally what you see. Unless anyone's got any other thoughts. Arcan is amazing to Speckles. But you don't see Vampire Lord and Zombie Dragons anymore because the Ethereal Amulet is kapooted, which is a bit of a thing. But maybe you still see them. You often also see Lord Vodarius the Fourth.
He's suddenly shown up.
Yeah. He's all over the place. Lord Vordrai. But yeah, you normally see Legions of Nagash, and you normally see Legions of Sacrament. Normally, is what you generally tend to see. But that's it. All right, so that's death done. That's not true. We forgot an army. Nighthorn. Gents.
Great army. Army. Best army. Let's go.
Yeah.
Jane Rasps and Black Coach.
Linda.
Ghosts.
Oh yeah, and Linda.
So
Linda, the king, some ghosts.
None of those things. None of those things. You normally see...
and the guy that you can't actually use with the thing that makes you a 1 dice charge. That guy.
No. I mean, no, because you can't use him. So normally you see the Blade Guy's Revenants is the thing that you would see, if you're going to see it at all. And you see, oh god, he's on a horse and he nips around the board.
Dreadblade Harrow.
Thank you so much. Effectively, every Nighthaunt player has got... If you actually go to a Nighthaunt player's house or meet them out for a drink, they actually have a Dreadblade Harrow just in their top pocket all the time, ready to deploy at a moment's notice. They're like, Dreadblade Harrow? I don't know if you've seen this Dreadblade Harrow anywhere. So, Reikenor the Grimhainer, Blade Geist, Revenants, yes. And
you know what I think they all should have, but I don't see as often as they should, is the Briar Queen. For her points and her spell, she is damn useful in that list. Like in that army. You don't see enough of her, just because it's an AoE movement debuff. Like, gosh, how many units have that?
It's really good. It's really good. Like the ability to, and also another really great unit in there is Banshees. All of these perform much, much better inside Legion of Grief, obviously. But Legion of Grief is effectively just Legions of Nagash, just with like some other words. And so Nighthaunt specifically, you don't generally see anyway, right? I think you see more Chaos Dwarf lists at this point. Anyway, Dreadblade Harrow. Okay. Has anyone got in the chat got anything that they're thinking? Vampire Lord often pops up. Yes, thank you. As an ally, the Vamp Lord is actually a really important point.
You know what's one I never see? Any of their endless spells. Whenever I see their endless spells, it's as a conversion, like to give Nagash a gigantic scythe. I never see it.
Someone I know had the chest of floating skullheads in their list.
I played someone with that once, and he explained to me what it did, and I was like, fuck, this is awful. And he was like, don't worry, it's going to really work. And then it didn't for the game.
It's like, isn't it like 10 points?
I don't know how many points.
It's pretty much at the point where they're like, hey, would you please take this? And players are like, but then I've got to paint it, so no.
They're cool. I mean, actually, they're some of the worst designed ones as well. Ish.
Yeah, they're not great.
They're all right, aren't they?
I don't know. I think they're pretty grim. Okay, right. The last one, the last subfaction, and arguably the most complicated on how this works. I was thinking about this today. This Grand Alliance actually works based on battalions rather than armies and subfactions, which is super weird. You normally build into an army, I think. That's what I'm saying. So we'll start with Skaven, because that makes it easier for us all. Yeah.
Heroes.
Cool.
Okay, so Skaven. I would argue the cookie... Has anyone got... Please tell me, what do you guys think?
Clan Rats.
Yes.
Just
you always see clan rats because they're the only battle line, aren't they?
No, Storm Vermin now, right?
Yeah, loads of things. I think you can see Storm Vermin. You can get Storm Fiends in battle line, can't you, with the right build?
You can.
Yeah, if you take a specific clan, but if you're taking just general Skaven, I think it's only clan rats are still the only.
Vermin Lord
right?
Warpseer would be the big one for me as well. You see Vermin Lord Warpseer with Master of Magic standing next to a Norhole to get like +2 or +3 to cast.
+2, yeah.
Yeah.
+2 to cast. And then you cast in Warp Gale, which is a great spell. It is a really, really solid spell. I think the thing that you often see at the moment, Clan Rats and Storm Fiends are very, very popular. Generally, obviously the Vortex is a thing. Cookie Cutter build, maybe you see the Bell, but I actually think the Bell's lost its popularity because it was at one point 200 points and is now 240, and so you can't really do the Bell spam list. So I don't think that. You generally see a lot of Jezzails, but you either see Jezzails or you see Storm Fiends. So that's the kind of like either or choice. You see almost always a Warlock Engineer, so an Arch Warlock, sorry, for more warp power, and sometimes you see both. You see two, just for that redundancy in case someone like ends up like sniping one.
Or you blow them up as well. Like let's be honest there. You kill your own just as often.
Little side note. My very first game was Skaven. My very first game was Skaven ever on Thursday with Nathan Prescott. I cast the Umbral Spell Portal. I was very, very excited. Yeah, I was like, I'm going to overcharge Warp Lightning. Now, there's a problem with that. Instead of doing, it does to D3 units, it does D6 mortal wounds. Yeah, if you cast it. But if you don't cast it or it's unbound, you blow yourself up. So I tried to cast it. I'd eaten some Warpstone. I re-rolled it. Didn't cast it. I had one wound left on my Arch Warlock. One wound. The very first time, the very, very first time I'd ever cast this spell ever. I was very excited. I then blew myself up, and I did D3. I rolled a 3 times D6. I rolled a 6. That's right. I did 18 mortal wounds to myself, and he literally took off, flew into space. Yeah. Nathan was like,
Maximum effort.
What a guy.
I love that he was effectively just a Warpstone tea kettle, just going like,
Nice gamer, mate.
and he had one wound. He was so dead, it was unbelievable. Anyway.
It was an old school Warhammer Fantasy dimensional cascade is what happened there. Like just a large exclusion zone. He created a new mini Chernobyl.
He was out. He was like, I can't be asked for this entire experience. I'm going.
Yeah.
So Skaven, Clan Rats, Storm Fiends, Vortex. Now, Jezzails and Storm Fiends are kind of interchangeable, and I actually think Storm Fiends are generally more popular. Arch Warlock, I think, is a part of that cookie cutter build. And then, as much as I don't think the Bell sees the popularity it once was, I think Vortex is in there. And then I'd like to say Doom Wheels, but I think it's only mad fuckers like me who are quite excited by them. And has anyone got anything else that they think is a part of the cookie cutter Skaven? I would still say Plague Monks. But
Yeah, they're just not as good as they used to be, are they? And they're not as cheap as Clan Rats. I think that's their problem.
But their output is way better.
Yeah.
Okay, so I would say Plague Monks. A big block of Plague Monks is still terrifying, especially if Death Frenzy's on the board. Okay. Right, let's get complicated then, shall we? Let's get into it. James, your favourite, Khorne. Dan.
Boring. Let's do the next book.
Slaughter Priests.
Yes.
For sure.
Key.
Yeah. Like tons,
Absolutely
like Slaughter Priests and the Wrath Axe and the Hexgorger Skulls.
Yeah.
There's that very common anti-magic build where you see the skulls, the Slaughter Priest, and the Wrath Axe, and then probably a Bloodthirster. Like almost any list seems to have that.
The cookie cutter Khorne build is that 3 Bloodthirsters that all buff each other
in Reapers of Vengeance.
And then I don't know if it still fits, but then it used to be what Dan said, which is the priest with blood boil that get to reroll in case they kill themselves.
Yep, that is it.
That's
Blood
it.
Secretor. Yeah.
Boring.
See, what's really interesting about that particular build is if you guys go back a couple of years, Seraphon had a really, really low win rate, super low. And me and Nathan did a kind of show. We were like, how could we fix this? And one of the things that we talked about is that a lot of people competitively at that point were playing with Shadow Strike Ripidactyls, but they weren't posting the results, right? Like everyone was like, this is the way to play, but they weren't, you know, like your mate who says, the first time I'm on a date with a girl, I always call her ugly. That way, like, she like feels like low self-confidence. It always works. And then you think, that doesn't sound right at all. And then lo and behold, he's always single. Just a little quick note, that's me. That I'm talking about myself. So it doesn't
As
work.
in, people always call you ugly on a first date? How dare they? You're a gorgeous man.
But it does keep your esteem
Scandalised.
low.
It
Yeah,
does keep
it's
my
true.
esteem low.
That's why he's happy to live in a house with a toilet and no seat.
I've got a seat now. I've got jam sandwiches and I have a seat on my toilet. I am crushing life and I'm really happy. How dare you?
Smashing it.
Uncle. Anyone want to talk more about corn? For some reason,
No.
I ate during a show.
I don't think there's anything more to say about corn, to be honest.
Yeah, I think their bloodthirster list was very popular, especially in the last handbook. But I have a feeling in this handbook it's probably got a little bit weaker. So I don't know if you'll see it as often, but yeah, it's a thing, isn't it? So.
However, I would like to pull an audible on this particular army, if that's okay with you guys. The build,
Go right ahead.
the build that you take, very much like the Seraphon example, which is why I brought it up, is you take the Slaughter Priests, the Reapers of Vengeance, the Bloodthirsters, and the Bloodsecrator. However, let's not forget the Fish Destroyer, first Super Series, the Chaos Lord and Karkadrak,
fair.
a legend.
Hero.
I feel, and as Owen has demonstrated in the chat, and I think other people on tournament, either on TTS or in tournaments have demonstrated, that Mortal Khorne, specifically focusing around Marauders and Chaos Knights, and even Archeon, who's been wound up, he can pile in an attack twice as well, is a better way to take Khorne.
Yeah.
Like, that's a more constructive. So that might be the very first time when we pull an audible on, yes, this is the build that's out there, but we suggest this is the build that you build and play, or you should be facing. Does that make sense? And that might be the one that I put up. I'm not going to put what I think is the weaker build.
Yeah,
So-
and that's the Gore Pilgrims, not the Reapers, eh?
Yeah. So I think Owen in the chat is saying it. I think it's a really valid point, and I think this is the one where I wouldn't put stock in what's being played. I think that there's a better version out there. And I know, obviously, what a wanky bunch of people we are for thinking we know better, but whatever.
I think also that one of the issues it always is that's like and I know you've said it and we'll probably bring it up again, but that the chaos thing where you end up with like is one of those weird ones where you end up with multiple books that support the same faction.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah,
that
you
makes
do.
it more complicated, right? Whereas someone's just like, I've got this Khorne book. He's a boring god, but I like him, so I'm going to play this list. Just getting that in.
Good.
Just getting that in. And also Owen's there, so he gets triggered by it, which makes me happier.
Okay, next one. I've just done it for us. Super simple. Nurgle. So it's Thricefold Befoulment is the build, or Blight Kings is the build.
Yeah.
And I go on.
I am so hoping that this build's gone by the time we play games again.
What, Blight Kings?
Yeah.
Okay.
There's
yeah,
so
me
many
too.
cool Nurgle models, and they're cool, but I don't want to see 50 of them.
Well, that's probably why, like, the Blight King spam, we'd put an asterisk next to it, and if you guys don't know what that means, it's like 40 to 50 Blight Kings. The Thricefold Befoulment, which is a battalion and includes 3 Great and Clean ones, is actually arguably deceptively stronger in 2020 because of it. Also, it got points reduction, big thumbs up, but it also is better because of the battle plans. If you're playing focal points, bonus points in that particular one because you've got monsters on all the objectives. You could potentially score an extra 3 bonus points a turn because of your Thricefold, which is pretty wild. If you're playing Scorched Earth, you can stop things being burned and burn stuff because of your heroes. So there's Thricefold is better than it was, and then there's obviously Plague Touch Warband, which is another one. So and they're all very different to each other.
I think the thing with Blight Kings for me is they are probably some of the best models, like for my money, that Games Workshop's released. They're beautiful. They're so characterful. I love seeing them on the table. But then when you see 40, 50 of them on the table, they lose that. They no longer look like this hardcore unit of hero, like, champions. They just look like this bog standard infantry. Whereas if you saw more of the other stuff in it, more like there's just so many options, I think it'd be a bit more exciting.
It's still, I think for me as well, one of the weird things about Nurgle is, like, looks wise, just quickly, I know that's not the point, but there's that really weird thing of like the older Nurgle models are like super like almost grim dark, and then there was that whole thing where they were like, oh, here's a guy playing some bagpipes, like, who knows.
I'm really into that. I love that fun aesthetic.
Yeah, I love the
new
nude stuff. And I think I still like, so I know I always joke about hate Khorne, but I still think Nurgle's probably the most interesting Chaos God. And so I think maybe that's another reason. Then I'm just like, oh, but there's like 50 boring Blight Kings on the table. I want the bagpipe guy. Slippity Boil Poper. I'll say his name properly. I'm not going to make it French. It's dumb anyway. I'm on board.
I just still love that I just ducked over to the Games Workshop web store because I wanted to know if it was still the case. I love that the Harbinger of Decay model still has a road sign that says Kislev on it. Amazing.
That's one of my favourite models in all of Warhammer, actually, and was designed by Jez Goodwin. Big shout out. That's like...
What's the name of the model?
Harbinger of Decay.
That's it. Oh,
also the Mortal Wizard as well is also super sweet looking. I could go on about Nurgle all day.
Still on their website, Kislev. Great big Ryan.
If we want a really fun thing to pronounce, obviously Floppity Barpiper, Sloppity Blop 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 is great.
Sloppity Barpiper.
Yeah, Sloppity Blop Blop is a phenomenal model to announce. So Nurgle, we've done Nurgle, Khorne. Okay, we're going to go on to the weirdos, Slaanesh, or as I like to call them, Slaanesh.
Slanesh.
Slaanesh.
Slaanesh. Slaanesh had a bit of a kick in recently, but there are two builds in 2020 other than there were. So you have Lurid Haze Archeon, which is a build. Big shout out to Nacor if he's listening. Lurid Haze Archeon, which is a big build, which you don't see very often. And now that it's not just face roll 3 keepers into people, you generally tend...
then resummon 3 more.
It's a little bit harder to play around with, but it's genuinely a good build. Lurid Haze Archeon is definitely a build, and I'll put that up on the site. It's not as well known and not as much played. And then, of course, 2020 confirmation as of all of the White Dwarf stuff from last year has been confirmed as match play. Dan, can I get a thought about this from you, please?
Oh my gosh, you know what I'm so excited for is that initially we were all really bummed out that they rebalanced depravity points. Like, I know that everyone was devastated that they balanced depravity. So thank goodness, thank golly gosh and all of their cotton socks that White Dwarf released rules for the Celestian host that let them get more depravity than they'd previously been getting. Not only completely ignoring the balance, but actually going beyond and creating a situation where you are getting more depravity, like, bang for your buck. So thank goodness that Slaanesh players didn't actually have to learn to play with the models they had on the table, and they can still continue to bring another half an army to the game, because who wants to play with 2,000 points when you could play with 3? Thank God we're going to be seeing Celestian host everywhere, and it feels like a pair of anguish in my bumhole. Google that. It was a medieval torture device if you don't know what it is.
Wow. Wow.
I've seen one of those in action. It's great.
Dan,
and he's not joking.
Dan, that's an excellent rant. 10 out of 10. I award you rant of the show. Congratulations.
Sorry, that one has been triggering me for a very long time. It's the easiest way to get me.
And also, that is very Slaneshi, that thing. It's
Yeah,
great.
it is. That was particularly good, and I loved it. Also, most importantly, if you don't take the Supreme Cyberites Battalion, like, what are you doing? Oh, Conias. Don't think that's how you say it, but thanks for donating 100 bits. 100 bits to the show. Oh, okay. So Supreme Cyberites is also the battalion that you always take. All of the time, because it means all the characters which are worth depravity are in a one-drop, but well, they're in a battalion, so it's fine. So Supreme Cyberites is definitely there. So next up, Khorne, Nurgle, Slaanesh, and coming to my boys, Tzeentch. Now, don't say it too quickly. Don't say it too quickly. But what kind of host are we going to be playing with?
A change.
Change host.
Chanji?
Chanje. A Chanje host. Yeah, Chanje. Changer.
Maybe that's how you could get around. Maybe this is how you could get around being one of those people, and people are like, "Oh, you're playing Tzeentch. What are you playing? Chanji? Oh, I don't know that one. What's it do? Let me explain it to you."
Yeah.
Are you just playing the change host? No. I'm playing the changeur.
I like it.
Changer.
Yeah, I like it. The chat. Bureau de change host. Bureau de change host. So yes, change host, and you have some horrors, and you have some flamers, and that is all she wrote. There are other lists, but the cookie cutter is, of course, the change host. You literally just move straight on. As much as that's an army I love. So Khorne, Nurgle, Slaanesh, Tzeentch. We have next up the two complicated ones here in Slaves to Darkness. Is the first one. Now, this is now. I would say that you always are going to see Marauders, and you're going to see Be'lakor. And why would you ignore those huge picks in that? Beyond that, though, it becomes far more complicated in that we haven't really seen anything take out like a top spot. They're like a 4-1 general army. So, but those tend to be the key elements around that. Unless you guys have seen anything different. Chaos Knights are really, really strong. Oh, Chaos Sorcerer Lord.
Yeah. I was going to say the other one that I see a bit of is the Endless Spell as well, but it's not as common as the Marauder Be'lakor combo.
Yeah, that's true. And also, I forgot, of course, the War Shrine. So actually, it really does start to write itself beyond a certain level. Marauders, Be'lakor, Chaos Sorcerer Lord, and a War Shrine is like a good element, like a good backbone to the list, which you just add stuff on. So that's Slaves to Darkness. Now there are sub-factions which change out some of those elements as well. Wrath of the Everchosen is an additional element, which you almost always see. You did see a Vermin Lord warps here, but you might now see Kairos. That's kind of a different build. That's its own thing. But Slaves to Darkness, yes, they tend to work around there. And then
I'm surprised you avoided the hardest one for so long. As the hardest religion. Yeah, I mean, obviously that's the hot ticket item that everybody wanted to know about. So that's why you left it till last, right? So that just to keep everyone on the line.
It's just so the change host one, so the Slaves to Darkness one can have as much discussion as we had about Gits, like that we had with Nathan. Like it's so adaptable, it's so playable, and some of those elements move into other sub-factions, so like it changes up. Django Unchained Host. I like how the chat is just while we've been talking, the chat is like, no, we still do change host memes. Yeah,
we're not done with that.
Amazing.
Some things never change host. How's that?
War never change hosts. Those Fallout players.
Oh, okay. So Piece of Chaos. Whatever you want, because no one gives a shit.
I think I mean, I haven't played it in a long time, but I still think there's a chance with the janky chaos stuff that in there was those battalions that put them into basically other allegiances. So probably not so much now, but the depraved drones, so the Slanesh allegiance in Beast of Chaos, could make it quite interesting as like a Slanesh army, but then you end up taking it as Slanesh, not Beast of Chaos, so you remove the Beast of Chaos section.
Do you know what? It's rare. It's rare. I don't know about you guys, but do you ever feel like the weight of responsibility in being people who talk on the internet about this thing and not wanting to unduly influence the direction of the game because you talk about it a lot? I feel that sometimes. I feel I try and be fair and balanced with my reviews and opinions, right? I don't know about you guys. However, I do feel like we should describe the cookie cutter list as 13 cockatrices and just make...
No, 4 Gorgons.
Not 4 Gorgons. That's the
4
wrong...
Gorgons, 10 cockatrices, done. Let's go. On turn 1, I died, but I had a great day.
You know what? The cookie cutter, I'm going to say the thing that you're going to see in every Beast of Chaos list, every single one, a herdstone because it's free.
And
That's,
also you're going to see 10 gore getting sacrificed, dancing around it, and
True.
also a Bray Shaman who's just
Yeah,
there
one Bray
murdering
Shaman
folk.
stabbing gore.
I would
Yeah.
love to say like that the cookie cutter list is like 5 Jabba Slife just to see someone build that. And when I say it, it's an eyesore of a model, but it should be. Like it's hideous to look at, and it wrecks my sanity. Just I'm looking at it right now, struggling
It's
to contain
terrible
myself.
there, right? It
It's
doesn't do
fine cast
anything.
as well. It's fine
It
cast.
is.
Oh, brilliant.
It
Love the
hurts.
podcast.
It hurts the person owning it just as much as it hurts anybody it plays against.
It
I
also
want to
hurts
see
the
10
environment, like, quite significantly.
Yeah.
It's all around bad. So I'm gonna just unceremoniously decide that Beast of Chaos is 13 cockatrices and just that's just gonna be the world we live in now.
First tournament to do that. Just I want to see the coverage of every one of that player's games.
And then finally, Chaos Dwarves. So
Who?
Legion of Asgore.
Oh, your
Isn't
homebrew
that your
chapter.
homebrew chapter?
Ah,
Didn't you make those up?
I did not. Nathan, what's the Legion of Asgore cookie cutter build, baby?
Probably some of those fucking underpointed Kadai
Mm-hmm.
and some of the dudes with guns. But they all look the same, apparently.
They do. So you just put 12 Kadai in, 1 Bull Centaur Torok, and then as many Fireglaves as you can get. I'm really sad I never finally did it, but I think you can get 100 and... Oh, you need a Demon Smith as well. They're actually so good. So good. Demon Smith. And then just all points left as Fireglaves, which are, at this point, really bad.
James, I think I've figured it out what he's talking about because I'm on the Games Workshop website and I can't find any reference to this army that he's made up. So I just looked it up in the search bar. He's talking about Lord of the Rings. If you put that in there, you get all of these Lord of the Rings orcs. That's what he's talking about. It's not a homebrew chapter. He's talking about a completely different game system.
Just doesn't know where he is.
Yeah. Wrong show.
I'd have you know, there's at least 3 of us that play this army, and we all love it. Yeah.
I love that effectively you are like Tobias being a never nude in Arrested Development. Like, there are literally dozens of us.
Dozens! There's not even dozens, though.
6.
We were going to have... the Legion of Asgore Facebook group was actually going to have a private party of Among Us, you know, that game? But you need, a minimum of 8 people, so we couldn't do it.
Great game, though. Great game. Love that
Great game. Yeah, you're acting kind of sus, Nathan. All right.
Yes, Meatballs has said, trick question, you can't have a cookie cutter list when only one person plays them in the world.
You
the
can.
definition.
He just gets to write it himself.
That's the definition.
Cheating.
That's the definition. 36 Kadai. That's the list. I wish it was the list. Okay.
What
Well,
about Chaos Ascendant?
okay. Yeah, we could do those. We could add that in. Legion of Chaos Ascendant. Well, I guess do you
Horrors.
Yeah, Legion of Chaos Ascendant is
And
almost...
those dudes on Gaunt Summoners.
No, you don't generally see that anymore. So what you see
Oh.
is what you see in 2020, because Gaunt Summoners got hit too hard, is you see Fate Weaver almost all the time, because it's really, 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 really great spell. You normally see the Vermin Lord Corruptor as well, because he's a great option for having the fourfold blade. Because he's got 10 attacks and so 5 D3 mortal wounds, which is really good. He's also Nurgle keyword as well, so he can still summon Plague Bearers even if Fate Weaver dies. Then you see Kadai is another option, and then Pink Horrors, Flamers. Those are other options as well. And then again, Be'lakor.
Yeah, I was going to say Be'lakor, top of the pops every time.
Yeah, I mean, if you can put Be'lakor on your list, I don't know why you don't, really, at this stage. Like, there's nothing that Be'lakor does. Like, Be'lakor can win you games. Like, it's a one-piece game winner for no reason. FYI, Asgore have 14 units available for sale on Forge World. I already know. And they're brilliant. And Bubba from Kring's London runs Chaos Dwarves, and Bubba is amazing, FYI. There's also Gabe. There's also John. Yeah, and there's also fucking...
It's going to name all of the...
This is the point. There are so few of you that you know all their names.
I do!
That's the point, right?
Lee Bromley!
Brits.
Lee Bromley, he's in there. Andy Hughes, I think he sold his army.
MJ Pegasus in
I'd
the
like-
chat. From now
Are you
on, whenever
telling me all the people that you've just listed in that chat are either people who have a problem with owning every army, or people who are competitive and are probably in every chat to try and work out what they need to beat? I'm not sure why anyone would be in the Chaos Dwarf chat to know what they need to beat, because you are the only person I've seen play them, apart from one poor man I played at a Crimbobo, and I tabled him turn 1, and then had to buy him 3 pints.
I like. Can we make it now? Thank you, MJ Pegasus in the chat. Anytime he brings up Chaos Dwarves, can we just all caps, dozens of us?
My
If I-
favourite is Gitley's little made-up names. There's Steve, there's Paul, Steve again. Maybe they're all called Steve. There's just
I'll have
this
you
bunch
know,
of blokes.
I'll have you know, not this year, but last year at CanCon, there were 2 Chaos Dwarf players, and then out of a 200-person field, they ended up playing each other.
They were both on the bottom. Add me into that chat, Rob. I want to see Steve.
I'll have you. I can't wait to fire that chat up. Also, you should join the Facebook group, because it's the best Facebook group. You only have to read like a post every 3 or 4 days. Yeah, it's really relaxed.
Days? I reckon it's probably twice a year.
No.
Have we had a new model yet? No. Okay.
We also haven't had a rules update in quite a while. So when someone comes in new and is
That's
like,
because
I
you
was
need to write it.
Yeah, someone was like, I'm thinking about this, and we were like, listen, we've had this conversation quite a lot. We can't be asked anymore.
Let us scroll back up and we'll find it. Oh, here it is. 2 posts above. Nah,
Yeah.
don't worry.
Anyway. Okay, so that is all of the cookie cutters. So what we're going to do from this point on is I'm going to be talking to some people who are good with these armies and getting these lists. I'm going to put them on the Honest Wargamer website. It's going to take a couple of weeks to get them, perfect. And then I'm going to try and get some guides done later on. And then I'll do some interviews to explain how the lists work. So you guys, if you're interested in collecting the army, it'll be a good way for you to go about it. Me and Ziggy are going to then put the stats together for the armies as well, so you can kind of see a more comprehensive breakdown and how they kind of work. And then hopefully it'll really give us, as a community, a good backbone of list analysis, for example, and then kind of see how that works, which I think will be really, really fun. I don't know what you guys think. I think that's nice for new people. Do you not? When Nathan then, he was like Legion of Chaos Ascendant, he's like, oh, Gaunt Summoners. But since their nerf, post-GHB 2020, it's actually not part of the conversation much anymore. I don't think, anyway.
I'm glad to see them gone.
Yeah, not sad at all.
Okay.
No tears lost for the Gaunt Summoner.
I got 3 of those bastards.
Fuck
Of
those
course you
guys.
did.
It's also useful for new players or players who want to have a conversation with their local group who are just they've got a friend or someone who's I don't know what to build or even to buy or how to work towards it. So you can work toward those kind of those samey cookie cutter builds, as opposed to trying to work it out yourself, which can sometimes be quite challenging, right?
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Good. Well, I hope you guys enjoyed the process at least a bit.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's been good.
Yeah.
Nice. That's good.
Relatively painless until that bloke started talking about the army he made up.
My favourite bit of the whole thing was when we got to Grots and Rob was like, "This is a cookie cutter build," and Nathan got in his box and was like, "There isn't one."
We're all doing 40 chess. Yeah, we're not in the box. We're out the box. You don't even know.
My favourite thing about Nathan is he never gets rolled up, and if anyone says a bad word about Gits, I think he'd deck him.
I love that he honestly said the words "you see Trog herd."
Yeah.
That for me.
One person in the UK that's still propping that list up.
No, you see Trog herd other places. Australia love a Trog herd. They love a Trog herd. Fucking nutbags that they are. Okay.
I mean, you've got that white dwarf. They've talking about a new Trog herd type thing, so it's probably similar to the Jaws stuff. So
Still gonna have more models.
So it's going to be more people wanting to play Trogs.
Sure, I'm with you on that, I guess. I reckon. So what plans for Warhammer do you guys have this week? James, you got any plans? You've not done a hobby in a while.
Yeah, probably. So I've fully nerded out. So I've got some Luminous to paint. I've got a tech list to paint. And then I stupidly might have acquired a load of little tiny rats. So the other day, I don't think I've put a picture anywhere. Actually, the other day, because I 3D print every now and again, I've printed some little tavern bases. I'll send you a picture in a bit.
Ooh.
They're little tiny tavern bases. And my concept is, do you know, like when you play as a computer game nerd as well, you play like an RPG, and the first quest is like, you go to a town, there's a little old lady or a little old man, they're like, "Oh, there's some rats in my basement," and you have to go clear them. That's what I'm going to do. Every game's going to be like, "Oh, there's some rats in the basement. If you go, I'll give you 50 gold coins." And then it's like, "Oh, by the way, take an army," because there's going to be hundreds, and there's little bottles of wine on the floor. It's great. I'll send you a picture.
That's awesome. I love that the idea is like there's some rats in the basement, and then you go down. It's like they brought a gigantic lightning cannon. Not quite the first quest I was anticipating here.
This is not worth 5 gold.
You get a rusty axe.
I feel like you're giving a lot of gold away from just murdering rats. If anything, I've learned from Always Sunny in Philadelphia. Yeah, if anything I've learned from Always Sunny in Philadelphia, like that, it's a rat stick is good enough for the rat catchers. Dan,
you see them.
Yeah. What about you?
I'm just gonna do any. That's it. Just excited. I'll settle on a number of legs for my Robo Gargant. And then I'm going to start kicking objectives. That's it. Just I mean, maybe I'll go 3. Who knows? Maybe it's instead of deciding between 4 and 2, the answer is 3 legs, and let's see how that goes.
Or why don't you go full Wild West and go for 8? Or it could
yeah.
Wild Wild West, Jim West, Desperado, Rough Rider, fucking great song.
None of this, 6 gun it is, running this, Buffalo Soldier. Look, it's like I told. Anyway, yep, love that song.
Also, great film.
Great song, great film.
Nathan, what about you? Got any Warhammer plan this week? Anyone's gardens you're invading?
I don't know. I don't think so. I'm going to finish painting this young lady.
Oh, what a high!
Check out those titties.
You're painting up the
poor
babe.
Podcast listeners think they're missing Nathan's OnlyFans.
Yeah. Are you painting up the chaos? The it's not chaos. Sorry, the gorgeous Troggoth princess herself.
Yes, getting her ready for in case there is that thing on the old next White Dwarf whenever they come out.
See, this is the really interesting thing, like the Black Library authors and people that produce the books and the lore writers like Phil Kelly and all those guys. They're like, yeah, we'll make sure we really expand the narrative for the Stormcast. We'll make sure Marathi, we're going to do a new book, you know, like the one that's coming out. And you think, okay, we're going to explore all these new worlds. And really, they don't understand that they will sell millions of copies of the Troggoth Hag backstory. Like, if there's some sort of, like, romantic love story starring the Troggoth Hag, yeah, and how she wound up how she was, that would be the book that we would all buy. Like
how she won Miss Realms, Universe Realms, whatever it is.
What about yeah, how she won that, and also how she stole Archeon's heart.
Yeah, from Marathi.
Yeah.
They just don't understand what we want. That's the problem. She is a babe. She's a babe.
Yeah.
And arguably the most protected woman in all of Warhammer, because if you say anything negative about her, which is why, Dan, when Nathan started talking about the Gits, I don't push back too hard, because if you've ever been in the Gits WhatsApp group, they're mental. It is 200 psychos who I don't ever want to piss off at any point.
Well, they're making the mistake. They're going down Warhammer horror. They're going down Warhammer crime. I want Warhammer Barnes and Noble like love stories. Like, give me a front cover with Fabio holding the Trog princess. That's the book that I want.
Okay.
Maybe we could just get the chat. There's 69 people currently in the chat.
Perfect.
Maybe
Nice.
we could get them to make some fan fiction.
Well, that was going to be my clarion call, James. This is a promise. This is a promise from the Honest Wargamer. If you write a comprehensive and detailed love story and fan fiction for the Troggoth Hag, Nathan Prescott will record the audiobook for you guys. I'll facilitate it, and you guys will end up with. And so send that to just DM the Honest Wargamer Twitter, or like tweet us or something. That's probably, or the Facebook, whatever. Any of those things are easiest ways to get us. Do those two, and then we will reply if it's good enough, and we will read it out on the show. That's the one.
Let's just hope Ben Sabbath's not listening and intrigued, because he'll write like 97 pages.
I'm excited.
Are you telling me that if Nathan read 97 pages of Troggoth erotica, you wouldn't listen to it?
Yeah, but I can imagine Nathan with a computer machine, and you sat there listening to him, and him just being like, I can't read Ben's handwriting. What's he wrote this on?
A typewriter. He's got a typewriter. Go on.
The Skaven love rat falls for the Trog princess.
So if anyone wants to write that, please do get in touch. I mean, write it and then just send it to us. Don't tell us about it beforehand. Just do it and then send it to us, and we'll have it recorded. Because I'm very excited by that. And we will. I will give you. I'm trying to find something to give you. Oh, fuck knows. A model of some kind. Fuck knows which one.
We'll find a great prize.
We'll give you a T-shirt. We will have a T-shirt for you, James. There you go.
Fine.
There we go.
Or you can have a date with Rob. Either or.
Done. I'll sell myself for erotica. No problem. Yeah.
Not the first time, I'm sure, that you've said that in your life either.
And won't be the last. I need you all to know that. Only one rat could meet her needs. The chat are having a great time doing it. I will absolutely narrate that. Nathan's doing it. Interestingly, Skaven storytellers are called narrators. Anyway, thanks for listening to the Honest Wargamer. I'm Rob. Nathan, Dan, and James, thanks very much for being on the show. You got any shout-outs to give before we leave?
I'm just mind-struck. I think we're all mind-blown by the chat. Big shout-out for everyone for putting up with us. Big shout-out to the team for only 30 minutes of waffle at the beginning. There's mine.
I'm just going to need a minute. I'm going to need some time to recover. After that last little 10 minutes there. There's just mental images so I have no shout outs. I just have a small internal cry to do.
It's completely fair. Nathan.
Trogs. I'll shout out Trogs. They're going to be great.
Well, I'm going to shout out the Twitch chat. Thank you very much for being brilliant and making us laugh the whole way through. Thank you to everyone who's watching on Patreon. Couldn't do it without you, of course. Thank you to everyone who subscribes or supports the show. Thank you to the podcast guys. And, of course, podcast guys, we say sneaky. You say...